Hi everyone. Campagnoli project is back for a couple tutorials. I want to give a shout out to Orion who reached out to me and asked me to record on Caprice numbers 1 and 2. So today we have Campagnoli Caprice number 1. So let's get started. This one is a little bit of, it was an enigma to me for a long time and I avoided it. But once I got into some of the more interesting, fun ones, I don't know, whatever you want to say, it became kind of clear what he was looking for. And it's interesting because this one is, it's a piece. It's not just an etude, right? All of these are caprices, but some of them feel more like etudes. And this one is more like a little tiny piece with 2 movements and then a half cadence at the end, ushering you right into Caprice number 2. And as I've mentioned, if you've read my blog, the first few caprices, and I can't remember if there's the first 3 or 4 of them, actually seem to string together. They all end on a half cadence and sound unfinished unless you go on to the next one, which resolves the cadence. So that's kind of an interesting little side note about these caprices, that some of them seem to want to go from one right to the next. So anyway, this one is about, I would say, bow control, inner tempo, and then of course you have the Allegro, which is just coming out of that slow largo, can feel like you're being shot out of a starting gate. So it's all about finding that inner sense of control in a very slow tempo and then a very fast tempo. So starting out from that first note, we want to have a sense of inner pulse getting into it, right? So counting off in 1/8 notes, not just quarter notes. Setting your 8-note tempo before you even start so that you can really make it through that whole note and it doesn't just feel like some random note. So like, I think about like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and so that pulse becomes so important through the whole thing. And as you build up into faster, the 16th notes later, it gets a little easier to follow your own tempo. The other thing is, you know, he's really big on exploring just the basic, the viola is the C string, right? That's what we're all about, is having that C string, having that low sound. And so he begins the whole book with C and he ends it with C. So I find that really interesting. So just getting a beautiful tone on that C, and I didn't do a great job when I just played it, but right. Getting your weight into the middle of it, bringing that hairpin out. And then as we go on, oh, and also what I was going to say about that was bringing your bow closer to the bridge as you're playing, right? So you start, far away from the bridge, you come close to get that nice tone and back away from it again as you get softer again. Then moving on to the 3rd measure where we have a little bit of string crossing action. So the way to practice this would be just with open strings. I'm a big proponent of always taking things apart into right hand and left hand. So if you have a right hand issue, you're taking the left hand out of it, finding the open strings. And so here you want to feel the cushion of the G string while riding the D. And then working that trill back in. We have that 4th note, or 4th finger, sorry, trill. So we want to be really, we want to feel really secure for that fourth finger trill, and it might mean doing some extra exercises alone with just your fourth finger. Rhythms are a great way to work on trills. Fourth finger is inherently weak, so we just need to spend a little extra time on that. Okay, so those are some of the basic things going on in the first movement of number 1. When we get to the 16th note, starting at measure 10, it becomes a little bit easier to sort of feel that tempo and control. What you want to be careful of is not running ahead. So practicing with a metronome is going to give you a good inner pulse so that you can really feel that. And what I would also suggest is, since it's nice and slow, is giving a little vibrato on the first of each 4 notes. Sorry if I can play in tune. It's just so that you can get a little bit more sound out as you're eking the sound out of your up bow. Vibrato will help you in a slow bow to sort of amplify the sound and stress notes. It's a good way to get more for less. All right, so let's see, going on. So measure 15. To really feel the syncopations after we've set up the beat, bum, ba-dum, and then we had dum, ba, bum. So just nice and strong on the offbeats so that we bring that out. Beat 1 is always really important, whatever piece you're playing. And here he really gives extra stress to those. So going on a little bit after the syncopation. We have a lower voice bringing out the bass, and then the upper two notes that come on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th beats are bringing out the top of that chord. It's all one chord. And so it's just a harmonic line, but we want to bring out the bass, and then the treble voices are sort of responding to that in a bit of a weaker voice. And I think this passage grows. Those 3 measures, it grows to that G7 chord. And so the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th beats can sort of always grow to the next downbeat. Let's see. Double stops coming up here at 24. And we can just be really gentle on these. I think that this largo should overall have like a sort of a cushiony sound, a gentle sound to it, to contrast with the Allegro that's coming up. And I do shift a little bit for those. So that it's a little easier for the left hand. Here I go 1 and 3. If I can get it in tune. Good. So let's go on to the Allegro. My weakness is perpetual motion, fast movements. And so I really had to figure out a way to practice this so that I wouldn't be making tons of mistakes everywhere when I was recording it. And I do encourage you, I meant to say this at the beginning of the recording, but you can find the full performance on my YouTube page, which you're probably already on. Actually, there's 2 performances, but the later one is the better one. So anyway, here, what's nice is we can follow the line up and down, right? So we crescendo up and we decrescendo down. So anytime you're going up, you're highlighting that. And I think accents on 1 and 3 will sort of ground you. So the thing that we have to find in this piece are places where we can relax a little bit so we don't get all that lactic acid in our bow arm and just feel like completely stressed out by the time we're done playing it. So the whole beginning of the Allegro, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the first 5 measures, I feel is kind of like a little introduction. And then at 34, the measure 34, which is the 6th measure, is sort of the meat of the piece. So this is all just, you know, scale work in C major, right? It's just going up and down the scales. And then we get to 34, and I'm not going to play it all because I'm a little out of shape for this right now. But at 34, we get to sort of the main part of it. So we get to that dominant, right? G is the dominant of a C, and that's sort of our landing place. And what is happening here is we have a G major chord in 34, a G7 in 35, and then a diminished chord in 36. So we want to bring out those chord changes, and the chord changes, of course, happen on the downbeat. So every time you're on a downbeat, you just want to like relax into the string a little bit. And I'm going to play it a little bit slower so you can see how I figured out to practice it so that I didn't feel tongue-tied with all the string crossings and slurs. So every time I get to a downbeat, because I'm not playing with any accompaniment, I can just relax a little bit and take a little bit of time there to be like, okay, this is a new measure, and we're going to relax into that. Now the other thing, practicing, sorry, I keep getting notifications on my phone. It's very annoying. The other thing about practicing this, this part of the piece is that we have to practice in fast mode so that we can string all the fast things together. So we can't just play through the whole thing slowly and then gradually speed it up and each time just play it through, right? We have to practice measure by measure, or even sometimes just 5 notes at a time. So I'll give you an example. One measure that is always hard, I find to be hard, is measure 36, because of the 4th finger and the low 1st finger and everything. So we can do that kind of practice where we're taking like 5 notes and we're just getting to that next beat. And we always want to get to the next thing so that we can eventually string it all together. And then I might go 2 beats. And I might take this and make sure you're doing the right bowing. So here it's an up bow. And I'm gonna play that until I can get it up to the speed that I want it to be, or possibly a little bit faster, so that I know I have a range of things I can do with it. And then I'll string those 2 together. And then I'll play the last part of the measure. And if I can't do the whole thing, I'm gonna take it apart into just 5 notes instead of 9 notes. The other thing that we need to be really careful about is finding out any possible place where you can leave a finger down, because you're going to come back to it. So in that same measure, for instance, I have a first finger that I just need to leave down for a couple beats. Oops. Let's see. Sorry. So I'm leaving my first finger down there, stopping the string like a fret. If I take it off, then I will not be able to play that accurately, and it won't also won't be in tune. So another spot would be the next measure. Sorry. So here I'm leaving my first finger down for I can really leave it down on the D and the G string for the last 2 or 3 beats of that measure. So that's a really important thing to go through with a fine-tooth comb and find all the places where you can make it as easy for yourself as possible. It might be hard in the short term, but in the long run, it's the only way you're going to be able to play it up to tempo. Let's see. Here at the end, I'm going to just jump to the end, the penultimate measure. Coming back to that C string every time. So if you're having a hard time playing this, what you need to recognize is your string crossing pattern changes every beat. So you have 2 on the D, sorry, 2 on the C and 2 on the G. And then you have 1 on the C and 3 on the G. And then at the very end, I would just play all 3 notes at the same time instead of rolling, just because it gives it a kind of a nice zing. So, and gives it a nice aggressive like ending. I think it's actually like a very interesting way to start out a book of 41 caprices. And it doesn't look like much on the page, but there's a lot going on, really, technically. So, let's see, anything else? Yeah, basically with the harmonies, you want to just sort of go by the measure and continue the line, right? So we start out measure 34 with a nice pleasant G major chord. So you want to try to relax there. So going into it from 32. Just relax into that and let it sing out a little bit and sound jolly and pleasant, because we're going to get into some gritty chords later. So there we already start to get into some conflicting sounding chords. And anytime you have something that sounds a little bit less than pleasant, you should bring out the angsty part of it. I mean, this is very, you know, end of classical period. Everything is what it, you know, should sound like what it seems like it should, in my opinion. So even though he didn't write dynamics, and it's all forte, you know, voice according to the harmonies that you hear and that you see. Next time, very soon, I will continue on with Caprice number 2, and we'll get into that. So I hope that helped out a little bit. I know it was a little bit of a whirlwind tour through Caprice number 1. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving weekend up here in the Berkshires, and I will see you back very soon. And any questions, you can always get in touch with me through my website or on the YouTube channel. All right, have a great one.